So if everybody didn't get one, please grab one or two. So I found a fly rod while I was fishing on the Waikiki, and I wanted to get it back to the owner. And so I posted on Facebook and Craigslist. And I got responses, but it wasn't what I had. And I thought there just has to be a better solution out there, right? There has to be something else out there, and there wasn't for the fly fishing world. So I invented Karmic Outdoors. So you put the decal on your gear, you scan the QR code, you enter your personal information into my database. So all your personal information is safe in my database. But if you ever lose it, now you can just scan whoever finds it, scan the QR code and get it back to you. So I have a rod decal and all these things, but this isn't about the business. I just wanted to, show you guys what it is.
Awesome.
About myself. Wow. Thank you. Yeah, we're slowly taking off, which is good. But yeah, I'm here to talk to you about south of Boise. This is like our river, right? It's like our claim to fame for the area, and so let's get into fishing talk. So I moved from Boise about 12 years ago. One of the reasons that I moved here is because my aunt and uncle moved here when I was like 12, and we went fishing on the south of Boise. And I'm from Las Vegas, like the nearest trout river is like 4 hours away. So when we moved here, my aunt and uncle moved here, we went there, and we caught fish. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe that this exists like so close to where we live. And so I figured I had to move here. So we're talking about South Fork, seasonality of the river, and just some of the tactics that I like to use when fishing the river. So the river is kind of broken up into really 3 different sections. So you have above the rivers, like by Featherville and stuff. And that's kind of a different river than kind of the Trophy or the Blue Ribbon rivers below the dam, below Anderson Ranch. And then you have another section that's called the Canyon section. There's no roads, there's no access, there's no anything. So you have the upper section, which is beautiful fishing, smaller fish, but lots of access and great fishing. Then you have your trophy section, and then you have like that wild section that you really need a raft or something to float it. So I'm talking about those. I worked fishing game for 6 years in all different kinds of capacities. I was the Idaho fishing game warden in the Payette, Caldwell area. So that was my patrol area. But I worked in fisheries all over the state, done a bunch of different things around. And now I teach science at Bora High School. I got a new position at the Dennis Tech Center teaching zoology, so I'm very excited about that. So, yeah. And then I also own Karmic Outdoors and Never Gone. So Karmic is what you guys have, and Never Gone is sort of an inventory management system for businesses that works off the same platform, because I found out that fly shops need help keeping track of all their rental gear and everything. So I said, well, let me build something for you guys. So wow. I did that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about I'm not going to talk much about the upper section of the river. Go figure that one out. Go put your boots on and go walk around with your flies and figure that one out. You'll have fun figuring that one out. The lower section is a little bit more challenging, a little more tricky. So I'm going to talk about those different sections and kind of where they are. So the middle section, the Blue Ribbon section below the dam to Danskin is where the last takeout is. It's about 13 miles. And so you have 13 miles, river miles of fishing. And it's really broken down into kind of 4 sections. So you kind of have this upper section, which is just below the dam, to the boat takeout called the Village. Then you have from the Village to what's called Indian. Then you have Indian to Danskin. And then from Danskin, you have the Canyon section, which is another 20 miles. And if you ever have an opportunity to do that, don't even hesitate to say yes. Just go and do that. It's such an incredible experience. It's so much fun. You'll be the only people there. So Mountain Home is down here. You come in through Mountain Home, and if you go up to Pine, Featherville, that's that upper section I'm talking about. Great fishing. But this is kind of the trophy section I'm talking about. Across the dam, down, and then those are the different sections. And so D is Danskin. You have to take out there. If you are floating and you miss that takeout, you got another 20-mile float. You're just gone. There's nothing. It's that's a canyon. I mean, it's there's a steep wall canyon. And it's absolutely gorgeous. But does anybody have a drift boat or access to a drift boat? Okay, beautiful. I've heard through the rumor mill that this is not going to be a good year for the drift boat because the flows are going to go up really quickly and then they're going to go right back down all summer. And this is really more of a rafting river. So if you're in the market for something, I would recommend a raft because you can float literally from B to E with a raft. And with the drift boat, you're really only going to float B to C, maybe. If you're really good, B to C. If you're not so great, B. You're both. Both is the best. Yeah, that's the best answer, honestly. Yeah, so it's a beautiful river. I don't know if you guys have all been down there or not, but I loved your talk about the safety stuff because I mean you are in a canyon, no cell phones, you feel like you're in a different place. You're driving and you're like where the hell is the river? Honestly, like I'm driving through the desert. It does not look like a river. And then you just drop in this gorgeous canyon. It's just it's amazingly beautiful. It's got bull trout in it, so it has some special protection. So whenever there's like any kind of water issues or there's any kind of building or anything that's going to happen, it's got bull trout protection, which is kind of nice. It's got some huge bull trout. This has like a 8-inch trout in its mouth, so you're not. It's kind of you're allowed to fish for bull trout, and it's fine, and lots of people do that. Just the biggest streamer you've got in the deepest hole you can find, and you might turn something up. One time, my buddy caught like just a little rainbow, and he's stripping in right at the boat, and he goes to net this fish, and this bull trout comes up at the boat and he nets both fish. He nets both fish, which is they can be very aggressive. Those bull trouts. It's got huge whitefish. It's got huge suckers. The kokanee will run up into there every once in a while, so you'll see them in there, and also you'll see a red thing with the bows at. So it's a tailwater, and that's really important because all year long it has a pretty maintained temperature. We don't usually have to worry about like on the Madison or some of those other Montana rivers where they have those hoot owl restrictions where you have to stop fishing at like noon or whatever. Because this comes out of the bottom of a very deep, cold lake, it's good all year long. Even the dead of winter, that water's going to be 40 degrees coming out of the bottom of the lake. So it's cold. And in the summertime, it'll get up to 55, 60 as you go a little bit further down. So that's really important, really good for oxygen, and we can fish it all year long, except for the closure. I'll get to that. This is my buddy Weston. That dude is like 6'2", and he has just like enormous hands. And so that was like the biggest whitefish I've ever seen in my life. The thing's like 26, like we all like passed it around, like took pictures with it. It was like the biggest, it was a massive fish. But so I worked with fishing, and we did electro surveys. And if you want to see how terrible you are at fishing, go on one of these electro surveys. Like you go to a hole and you put the probes in the water, and all of these fish come, just like bubbles of fish everywhere. And you got to net them all, and you're like, wow, I would have caught none of those. Maybe one of those fish, right? But it's amazing, this river, and how productive it is, and just how lucky we are to be there. So this is kind of the latest results of their electrofishing samples from the fishing game. I still know some people, so they sent me some stuff. This is from Art. And so a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember, we had really bad fires, and then we had rains that kind of washed a bunch of stuff into the river, and everybody was concerned about the health of the river. And it had almost no impact on the river at all. If anything, they're saying that there's more fish in the river in the bigger age class, but they're saying the confidence interval is kind of low. So it's like, there's bigger fish in there, we think, is essentially what they're saying, right? But yeah, so really over 16 inches, like there's a lot of big fish in this river, and it's a lot of fun. If you can get it figured out, you can have just a phenomenal day on this river. So let's talk about the seasons. It's winter, kind of winter to spring, and then we have the closure, which is for fish to kind of breed and have a little break. And then we have the opener coming up in just a couple of
week and a half.
Yeah, 7, 8 days, something like that, right around the corner. So that's going to be awesome. And then we have summer, and then we have the fall. And the reason why I broke these up is because the flows that come out of the dam have different amounts. And that's how it kind of gets broken up. And then, seasonality of the fishing is a little bit different as well. So, like I said, safety on the, has anybody not been to the river? Have you not been to the south river of Boise? Okay, please make the trip. It was amazing. Just to go see it. So right now it's flowing at 300 CFS, and a CFS is like a basketball. You can just imagine a basketball. So there's 300 basketballs flowing by you every second. And that's a lot, but you can get through there. In the summertime, it typically goes up to about 1,700. You cannot cross that river. Even at 600, it's really challenging to cross that river. So even though it's a clear river, it's really pretty, it looks like you can get across. If you go in and you're like here and it's sliding you down, go back. Like you cannot cross. So like, go back. Unfortunately, like this river does kill people every so often. You know, you do hear about people who slip and fell or just went under, and so it is a little bit challenging. And just because it looks like you can get across doesn't mean you can. Just have a waiting staff or something like that. But in the winter, it's about 300 CFS. Lots of walk-in way. It's very accessible. There are plenty of places where you can cross if you're safe about it. The early summer, kind of this June, July-ish area. It gets harder to find places because, like you guys experienced in Hawaii, there's only 13 miles of fishable water, and every bend probably is going to have somebody in it. If you find a good spot, just have a beer and wait, and then you can fish that spot over and over and over again. But use extreme caution, and then if you do go around, just show courtesy to people. They've got 50 yards, 100 yards up and down. Like give them a little bit of space to fish. There's plenty of spacing. Summer flows, whatever, yada yada yada. The fall, it looks like you can't. Sorry. This is boring.
No.
Right? Use caution. Like I said, 600 is my favorite. The fall is my absolute favorite. The fish are still very aggressive. They're still warmed up. They're eating big bugs, and there's not as many people out there, and the water's lower. So if you don't have a boat, there's lots of places that you can get to, and the fish are just still very active. They're right up against the bank. It's my favorite. It's only about 2 weeks. It's kind of the sweet spot, So
would that be like end of September, beginning of October in that area? Or?
We'll see what happens this year, but typically it's like September 1st to September 9th or 15th, somewhere in there. And I'll show you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's when they kind of bump the flows down. So wintertime fishing, in the wintertime I kind of broke that down a little bit even more. So that's February, November, February, and that's just like straight nymphing. That's just like 10-foot leader, indicator, and you're just all day long, right? Like that's pretty much it. And if it gets really warm, then maybe there'll be some midges, some blueing olives that pop off. But my second favorite time, it's all my favorite time of year. My second favorite time of year is March. If just before it closes at the end of March, if it's like a 55-degree day out there, it can be just absolutely, because the fish are very hungry and they know the seasons are changing and there hasn't been as much pressure. So if it's in March, the first thing I do when I get there is I have a squalla on top, and then I have a long dropper, maybe like 30 inches or so, like a long dropper. And I'm really fishing the squalla, but more than likely I'm going to catch fish with the nymph. That's how it always works, right? But I'm really fishing that squalla, and that's typically what happens in March. But this is kind of my list of flies, kind of in that order too, like what I'm going to tie on. So on my website, HighRankOutdoors.com, I wrote a blog about my nymphing technique. I have like a really specific nymphing setup that is very complicated. And so I always have 2 fishing rods. I have a dry rod and a nymphing rod because it's not interchangeable. Like it's just really complicated. So I want to have a squalla, maybe a zebra midge or something under that, or maybe just a beta nymph underneath that. And then my nymphing rod is going to be a 2 or 3 nymph rig, typically with like an egg or something in the middle. And that's typically the money. One of the first pictures was a fish with a egg in its mouth. But yeah, these are kind of the go-to. Usually small flies, really natural colored flies usually. There's certain times of year where these fish, I think, key in on other things, and that's that September time. I'll get to that, but I like natural for this river. I'm not a huge hotspot person on this river. I feel like everybody that's fishing fishing something blingy or with hot spots and stuff, and I feel like the fish kind of get used to that pretty quickly. So winter fishing can be hit and miss. It can be a real challenge. You can have a phenomenal day, or you could not catch anything. You just need to appreciate that you're there on winter days, really. And some days I just put on a little campfire and just enjoy being outside. But my favorite thing to do on the whole planet is my birthday's in January, so I always do a cast and blast where I take my dog, and it's Beretta, the bearded lady, and we go chukar hunting in the morning, and then at 3, 4 in the afternoon, then we go down and catch a couple of fish. And it's just like my birthday. So, there's not very many places in the world where you can do that, right? I mean, think about it. Like, where can you go catch 16-inch fish and shoot 5 birds, right? Like, it's an incredible place that we have right around the corner from us. So, so I like to take advantage of that if I can. Okay, the spring closure. As you were mentioning the group with the red, this is a red, and you can tell a red because it's the cleanest part of the river, and that's just obvious. Like, that's the cleanest part, and there's fish there, usually. Avoid that place, and even into June, when the opener is, there'll still be fish on reds. But yeah, it's closed to give fish the opportunity to just like be fish for a little bit without any pressure or anything. So if you're ever down there looking for turkeys or just wildlife, great place for shed hunting and just just experiencing the wild. See people fishing, kindly report them to your local league because they are taking away from your research. But yeah, so we give them closure for 2 months really. But then we open and it's game on. Like, let's go fishing, right? It's like, hello, here we go. The first thing I'm going to throw on is this big black rubber legs. The salmon flies are starting to get ready. And typically salmon flies pop off at the later part of summer, but the nymphs get very active a couple of weeks before. And that's when we open up the river. And so there will be lots of salmon fly larvae all over the river. Salmon flies have like a 3-year cycle. It takes them 3 years to grow up in the water. So they're always in the water, but when they're about to turn into the adults is when they're the biggest, and they're just gnarly. They're just ginormous, gnarly bugs. They'll be all over the water. Fish will look super keen on them. Be very cautious with the extreme water, because some years it'll go all the way up to like 2,000, 2,500 CFS for a little bit, and I wouldn't even go fishing. I just wouldn't waste your time, because even if you could find a space, like the fish are just going to be right up against the bank, or they're going to be in the shallows and stuff. So just watch the flows. And I have a link on one of these slides about the flows and stuff. 1,700, go fishing. Anything below that, go fishing. But if it's 1,700 and above, I probably wouldn't waste my time. Really, just go to the wide heats.
Where would you know that?
I have a link, but I'll show you. Yeah.
I don't want to go fishing today, so where would I go to look to see what
So the USGS, I have an app called River Data, and it's a free app, and you can plug in your favorite rivers and like put them in there. So like, if specifically like the middle fork of the Boise, like has anybody fished that one? Oh my gosh, yeah. Come back next month. That place is amazing. If that one's a certain level, I don't even waste my time either. So I'm always checking these river levels, and so the River Data app is really good. But the fly shops will have that usually regularly available. It's a very common thing on the USGS, but it's annoying to find this like sites. Like it's not called Middle Fork of the Boise; it's called Hot Springs something gauging station. So you gotta like know the lingo, which is dumb. Sorry. That's the first thing I'm throwing on with a couple of other nymphs usually. If it's pretty warm out, obviously you're gonna have caddises that come off. Elk hair caddis, Goddard caddis, X caddis. Then always have Adams with you, no matter where you are in the world fishing for trout. Always have some Adams with you. But that's kind of again the order that I'm going to go in when I'm fishing early summer. And if you have a boat, more power to you. It's just like it's game on for you guys. If you don't have a boat, you're gonna have to find those spots and just be cautious of the other people. And so here's the link that I have there for you. So this is the year of the river. So this is from May to May essentially. You can see in June it typically goes up. This is typically our summer flows, and this is from last year. And you can see that we were hovering right around that 1,500, 2,000 range most of the summer. That's great if you have a boat. Not so great for walking away. But then see it pops down in September. That's 600 in September, and that is like that's money. That's the best. Like really, I try to keep it for walking away. Get lots of access. There's not a lot of people, as many people, and then it goes down to 300 CFS. And I just checked the flows, and it's still at 300. And rumor is it's going to be at 300, and then maybe at opener it goes up and down. So The dam is operated by the BOR, the Bureau of Reclamation, and their number one priority is flood mitigation. Number two is irrigation, and then last is fishing and recreation. Right? So no matter what's going on, like our considerations are always last, which is probably rightfully so. Like I'd rather not flood the town, you know. But yeah, so they kind of make that decision, they make that judgment call when they're going to raise it and what they're going to raise it to. And like I said, I've heard rumors this year that's not going to go up very high, but if you click this link, it'll take you to the site, but you know, who cares? Okay, July 1st is salmon flies. Like as soon as July 1st hits, like that's when I'm throwing the big bugs. Like that's when I'm throwing topwater chubbies or just salmon flies in general. And when you're out there in summertime, and you'll just see them on the ground everywhere. Okay, past couple of years, we've had warming crickets really bad out there, like insane. Like the bush is just like black and like crawling. Like
I love fishing with more.
it's so gross. They're so. I got like goosebumps right now. They're so nasty. They're so, well, like when they're small, they're not so bad, but when they're like gnarly things and they just like jump on you, like you're fishing, one comes on your back.
Yes.
What's that? They swim, and so the fish like them when they're small, but when they turn big and black and they have their armor, the fish will just like let them go. And there was a stream of them, and I had this tiny little golden stone that I was throwing in between there, and the fish just came up and just looked at me, grab my golden stone. They don't want anything to do with them when they're big and gnarly. But when they're small, they won't.
Why do you think that is? You think that you have big meal?
No,
Because they have such hard shells.
their shells are very hard.
Oh.
So you guys wearing a net? I mean, do you like?
No, I'm about this deep in the water always. Like, yeah, they're so gross. They're so gross. I don't like them at all. But when they're early in the season, this fly right here is called a Fat Albert. The Fat Albert, if you take a red Sharpie and you kind of coat that bottom side, that thing can be freaking gangbusters. If it's early kind of June, July, and that you see the warming crickets, before they get all big and nasty, that is like a killer fly. Then you have salmon flies. A beetle, I think, is overlooked a lot of times. But yeah, I mean, as you can see, it's summer, right? So there's like no nymphs on there. I just don't want anything to do with nymphs anymore. I've been throwing them all year. Now I just want to throw this like big honking thing and wait for fish to come get it. But if you have a boat or a raft, I mean, it's just like I have ADD, and as you can tell, and so like as we're floating down the river, it's just like every second, like could be a fish, right? Just, oh my god, there could be a fish right there, right? So you're just like waiting, and then like here they come. I'm sorry. Okay, good. Yeah, good. And so here's my favorite time is the fall when it goes down to 600. So one of the tactics for this one is people are still throwing these giant flies, right? They're still trying to throw these big salmon flies. And then I skirt it down like size 10. They're really small, like Moorish hopper or a really small chubby, just, you know, kind of smaller dries, ants and beetles and stuff. And I think because the fish have been pressured, they see the big meal and they go, no, thank you. And a lot of times, kind of in that later summertime, I'll throw the big hopper, I'll throw like a caddis behind that. And a lot of times the big one will get the fish to go up and look at it. And then they have this ability to just like float and then like just grab the caddis from behind. So definitely use something to get their attention. And then, you know, a lot of times the caddis will pop off from the back. But we have just incredible patches. There's a great blueing olive patch in the wintertime. There's a midges all year, but most in the wintertime. You got sulfurs that pop off in the fall. You got pink alberts, which is really big mayfly that pops off in July. That, again, the fish, sometimes you'll just see them just a pod of them and just like going crazy on them. So, you know, obviously as anglers, the number one thing is like find where the fish want to be and then find what the fish want to eat and then give it to them. But if most days I'm just throwing hoppers or just like big ugly things until I find what they want. Yeah.
What's the sulfur supposed to imitate?
Well, it's the sulfur mayfly. It's just like a yellowish.
It's called a sulfur mayfly?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what I've always referred to.
Okay.
Scientific.
Oh.
It's not a hexagenial, those are East Coast.
All right.
Yeah, it's just still sulfurs. I mean, you know, they have those different color phases, and the red is typically July. The sulfur typically come around July, September time. Yeah. And then yeah. So and one last thing is like this is your guys' river. It's a non-guided river. It's only open to everyday anglers going down there, and I hope that we can keep it that way because I love guiding, and I love that industry, and I love what it does. But we have a very small section of river really that we can fish, and so if that ever pops up in the board, I hope that we can all speak out against that because the fishing can be difficult out there as it is with the amount of pressure that those fish get. It would be infinitely harder if you get guides out there. But you definitely don't need to be a guide to go fishing. That's the Pine Tree Hole. It's an incredible big back eddy. That's my wife. We had just an incredible day. Just beetles, just nonstop, just friggin' all day with these beetles.
What time of year was that?
That would have been right after we opened it, right in June. Yeah. We had this little 2-person pontoon boat. Then we had a baby and that ruined everything. So we done a lot of fun stuff. But yeah, that was June, right after the opener. And then this was a day where we went around these trees and we parked the boat and we had lunch and then we turn around and there's just like 1 billion caddis on this tree. And there was just fish going crazy just underneath the whole time. So we just sat there for like 2 hours just catching fish. All of the wives were super mad because we came home so late that day. This is like an hour into the float, 2 hours into the float. Maybe we still have the whole river left to go. We're just like rowing forward and get home on time. But the fishing was just incredible. I mean, we're just like taking action shots of fish come up and grabbing them. It was just a great time. So I'm here if you guys have any questions. I went through it kind of fast, but I'd be happy to give some of these things up for you guys.
So a pontoon would be a good way to navigate.
Yeah. So if you are you talking this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
So
a one-person pontoon.
Like the pontoon you're selling?
Yeah.
it's so where when we had those fires and those floods, it washed a lot of debris into 3 different sections of the river. And when it did that, it created these big ponds. Like the Owyhee has river that has like a pond area, and there's a river and a pond area. The South Fork now has 3 of those that are really big. That it just like seems to hold fish all year long, really. And yeah, if you have the pontoon, you can just get up to where right where the river kind of comes in. There's always fish just like
Do
sitting
you just
there.
anchor there then and just fish from the boat?
Yeah, or you could just get out and fish some of the sides and stuff there. So this is the daily temperature. As you can see, in the daytime it goes up and daytime goes down, but it stays really consistent in terms of no highs and lows and stuff. We're still looking at only about 300 CFS, and usually by now it's a little bit more than that. Average is 1,600. CFS, like I said, that's the summertime flows, and that's usually really good. I could not imagine that we were at 6,000 CFS, which is insane, but it happens every once in a while. So, like I said, I always like to check these things before I go fishing, just to make sure that it's safe and that I might actually catch fish. But
I had a question about your comment that fish key in on hot spots.
yeah,
Is it must be the color that they're keying?
I
Otherwise, it
assume
just
so.
looks like a regular,
Yeah, so it'd be like your pheasant tail with that bright orange collar, bright pink collar, or something like that. I think it's just something that as a predator, as a top predator in their ecosystem, it's just something out of the ordinary, and you just grab it real quick. I think that's kind of the hotspot thing. I think after a fish has had a couple few lip piercings, they learn.
hot spots are not the deal.
I don't know. I think they're
Well, they
they're kind of all the rage.
well, you would have to think that they're like any animal that can get conditioned.
Yeah.
And so if they've been caught, they've fallen for that before. Oh, look at that. Right. That was delicious.
Yeah.
Well, that's that again.
That's
It's
presuming
very many times for them to not like that thing with the bright red thing on it.
I don't know what the
They're that
biology,
smart.
the biology fish site is, but
Yeah.
they must be able to distinguish that from one that doesn't have a pink collar.
Yeah. Fish, from what I understand, can see color. They can see ultraviolet. Blue is a color that in the water in the light spectrum doesn't go down very deep. So blue is a color that you only use in the top section, from what I understand. Red can go down a little bit deeper. So it's a different energy of wavelength. And so fish can see the full color spectrum. And I think that as they try it a couple times, maybe they don't like it. Again,
Is that why
this is all
so many
hearsay.
tie flies with UV blue?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They'll with that. But I think that's just sometimes needs to be a part of it too. But
it is, but it's got that UV.
Yeah, it
yeah,
shows that on UV color.
when you run it through the ultraviolet spectrum, you can see it a lot more. And I don't know about trout, but I know ducks see UV better. Many birds see that as well. So
Okay.
maybe.
Do you ever put water in them and suck out their to see what's in their stomach?
I haven't done that.
Very.
I caught one, so I just keep using it. I just caught one.
Oh.
I've never done that. No. That's, I mean,
Yeah,
I wouldn't have a problem like gutting one and like grilling one. I wouldn't have a problem with that. But and so this is a trophy. So you can only keep fish over 20 inches, which is like, I don't know, that's
It's barbless too, right?
yeah, the whole thing is single barbless. But that doesn't mean that you can't see somebody out there with a spinner. Like a single barbless could be a treble hook. That's one hook that doesn't have the barbs. So just because you see somebody like throwing a Rapala or something like that doesn't mean that they're breaking the law necessarily.
I thought it did.
No, so it's not like, it doesn't mean one single hook. It means the hook itself that's manufactured, if it has 3 points or 2 points, it's still a single hook.
Huh, I didn't know that.
but they would have had to have pinched the bar.
You gotta pinch the bars, for sure. You gotta pinch the bars, yes, which is fine. But you see people out there fishing with bait all the time. That's not allowed at all. Artificial flies and only use barbless hooks in that lower section. I'm talking about the trophy section from below the dam all the way to the takeout.
So that's where, like, in section you're talking about floating into the pontoons and stuff, you would get in right below the dam?
Oh no.
Now, where would you go to get to those 3 ponds we were talking about?
Yeah. So if we look, so actually right below the dam here, there is one. And that first put in kind of got really screwed up. Now it's just like a gnarly class 5 rapid, and it's a lot of fun, but
And I know what it might
upstream of that is where one of those would be fantastic, and I would love to get one of those too. Yeah, you'll see.
All right.
Boom, there it is. I would love to get ones and wait and go across and then park it and just wait.
Oh, just use it to navigate
Yeah, nobody does.
across the river.
Yeah, use that to like navigate going back and forth and stuff like that. But I personally wouldn't put it in and then just go down the river in many of those spots. But there's one here. There's 2 of them that are down here, which is why this section here is kind of where drift boats can't go anymore. There's a couple of big slides in there. Like if you're a very proficient rower, you can row a drift boat through there. But then down in here, there's a big rock garden. Like it's a very tricky maneuverable thing to go through. And most people take out at what's called 121R, which is just kind of an unimproved boat ramp. So you can float a little bit further. But there's a pond right here, which you can kind of see. There's another pond just above the takeout and dance tank, which that would be phenomenal for just getting in and going out, especially in the evening, like, an hour before the sun goes down and all the boats are gone. You could be the only person out there, and you can
Can you get to those spots to drive to when they get into them?
Yeah, you can, 100%. But the fish are always on the other side.
But if you want a woman pontoon, then you can go across it.
Yeah, and that's what I would do. And like a lot of times, especially in the wintertime, everybody's on the road goes on the north side. The road follows north the entire way. So if you can find a spot where you can cross and you bring a lunch in the backpack, you can go to the other side of the river and there's nobody on that side. And you can fish those big deep runs and pockets and stuff. And that's a tactic that we like to try to do because it can be very popular on the river. It's like the Waikiki. We only have, this is 13 miles and the Waikiki is 13 miles. We only have 26 miles of incredible fishing, kind of right next to us. But if, like I said, from D through E, if you ever have an opportunity to do that, or if you want to get some people together to do that. But there's like 4 or 5 like big rapids in there, like very gnarly rapids. But but you can portage around it. They've made access around that. But that is a float that like we fished 3 dudes one day through there, and each one of us probably caught 30, 40 fish.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just as soon as we went past where the boat takeout was, it was nonstop fish, just nonstop, because these fish don't see anybody, like maybe a boat on the weekend. It's just incredible. You have to call this lady in Prairie, and I don't know her name or phone number, but she'll come up and she'll do the shuttle for you. Otherwise, you have to do the shuttle yourself, and that's like, that'll take you half a day to do that. It's a real pain in the ass. You got to go through Blacks Creek, park the vehicle, drive all the way through around, put it in that like B, or it doesn't take half a day to do that. It's reasonable. She only charges like $50 or $75 to do that, which is
There's a lady that lives where? She lives in
Prairie, yeah.
She's a shuttle driver.
You know her?
I've never used her, but friends have used her.
Yeah, what a good hustle for her. She should be charging $100. I mean, it's like I paid $50 for this.
She probably gets charges a fee and then gets tips though.
Oh yeah,
Oh, like-
yeah, definitely save you a whole day of doing that. But yeah, it's just so one of the rumors that I heard, and I don't know if it's true or not, but one of the rumors that I heard is that they're wanting to raise the dam a couple of feet, and so in order to raise the dam a couple of feet, they want to make sure they have as much water in there as possible this year. In case it's a bad water year next year, then don't start from the bottom and go up. And so that's what I heard is the reason why it's not going to be a lot of water going through there this year, which is good for walking away to anglers. But I don't know what that's going to look like for the road, because the road and the dam are the same height.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you raise then you got to redo another road. So, that's not, that's above my pay
I think it's a good couple years off.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's a lot of jurisdictions buying shares of the water for irrigation and for drinking and all that. It's a big multi-jurisdictional project.
And I heard that there was several lawsuits, but they won 2 of them.
There's some flood mitigation concerns too, that you had that many more acre feet of water, and then there's a lot of water behind some dams.
Yeah, it's crazy. You think like you just add like a couple of feet to a dam, but that's like you just increase the whole reservoir.
That much water.
Which is like it's crazy. Yes. No, I don't know.
That was great.